Welcome back to the Now Morning Show, everybody. Now, the next interview is going to be a story really of loss. Many families have lost loved ones to the COVID-19 pandemic and to the COVID-19 virus itself. And our next guest has also lost, to be exact, he lost his mother to COVID-19. My guest this morning is Dwight Andrews, and his mother was actually a school teacher for over 40 years. And quite a stalwart of the Diamond Vale community. And we're going to speak to him this morning about the loss of his mom and, the situation surrounding it as well. Good morning, Dwight.
Good morning. Good morning.
First off, condolences to you and your family on the loss of your mom to the COVID-19 virus. I know it must have been very devastating.
Yes, thank you. Yes, it was.
Now, let's speak about your mom a little bit. She was a school teacher and she was also very involved in the community, and has done so for over 40 years and for her whole life, really. Tell us some fond memories you have of your mom.
Always had time for everyone. So she was more outside of school, even in the community. She always had time to assist anyone with any sort of schoolwork. Very loving person, very passionate. Also, he was pretty much a stickler for us having proper pronunciation, and we always had to take our schoolwork extremely seriously. Yet still, she was always able to allow us to do all the extracurricular activities that we sought to do.
Now, your mom has been at a facility for some time, her and her sister, and to receive care, and by 24 hour nursing staff and so on. Now, recently your mom would have contracted COVID-19 and as a result had passed away, and we're really sorry about that here on the Now Morning Show. But there's more to the story. Would you like to share that with us?
Yeah, there's more to the story. So let me just say that the night after it happened, I took to social media to express some of my views, as well as to vent and to express some of my frustration. And it pretty much comes around the whole issue of vaccine hesitancy. We have been urging the caregivers to take the particular vaccines available, and there was always this massive hesitancy. Eventually, I decided to put my foot down, and I decided to tell them, look, you either take it or I'll have to do something and change providers or whatever it was. It turned out it was a little too late, and that within 48 hours after I gave them that ultimatum, I got the diagnosis that mommy had contracted COVID-19.
And the main topic here is vaccine hesitancy, and we need to understand that while, yes, everyone has the right to choose to or to choose not to take a vaccine, but I think being educated about it is very important to dispel any misinformation and to also maybe allay the fears associated with vaccine hesitancy. What is, from your point of view, you were one that was urging the individuals to get the vaccine. What do you think people need to understand, from your point of view, about the vaccine and about the misinformation that is out there?
So you're touching on two topics, both of which are important. The misinformation situation, that is a liability of the whole social media space. There's a lot of nonsense out there, and it purports to be legitimate information, and people go ahead and share that, and they believe therefore that there's some conspiracy as it relates to the vaccine, and therefore they would not take it. The second issue that you are bringing up is, how does vaccine hesitancy impact people? You see, somehow when I placed my post out there, somehow the discussion became about whether you have the right to take the vaccine or not. For me, that's a nonsensical argument. Of course, you have the right not to take the vaccine. That to me is a no-brainer. Where it gets dicey, though, is when your particular action impinges on the right of the other person. So your right not to take the vaccine can, as it was in the case of my mother, lead to someone getting COVID-19. So I think the discussion needs to change and the argument, the framing of the argument needs to change, because the issue at hand is really whether your individual right allows you to violate my individual right to live. So I think that is really the issue at hand. I think when people accept more personal responsibility, we will then grow into a more collective responsible space. And then we will understand that we are each other's brother's keeper. Somewhere along the line, this has become a very selfish argument with very stringent positions. But it is not so simple, because the action of one impacts many. And I think the discussion has to be what is the collective right and what is for the greater good of the society, as opposed to what is your personal right. If your personal right in some way did not affect me, I would care less. The issue is here that the personal right does affect me.
And you know, that is probably a perspective that many people have not even thought about, because again, it touches on individual choice, human rights, personal rights, but it's both sides of the coin. Because as you drew reference to, let's say I was not someone who was interested in taking the vaccine, and I was somebody who was constantly in contact with a vulnerable population. Me exercising my right not to take it could, in turn adversely affect those who are at risk.
Yes, and so, I think what people need to also understand is, so I've been hearing this whole discussion with rights. I'm trying really not to get into quasi-political space with this, because that's when the argument gets simplistic.
Yeah.
But people need to understand that there is no right whatsoever in the world that's absolute, right? I have the right to free speech, but I can't go on a plane and shout bomb, right? I have the right to own property, but I can't have 6 kilos of cocaine in my house. So the issue of your personal right, while I highly respect it, anybody that knows me know I am a champion for human and civil rights, right? But there's a point at which we have to take the greater good of the society as the priority. And there is no time more suited for something like that than a public emergency. We are in a pandemic. This is not a game.
Let me ask you something. Do you hold anyone specifically responsible for the passing of your mom?
No, the answer to that is absolutely not. I hold ignorance responsible for my mom. And that ignorance would have come about as a result of some of the misinformation, etc. I don't think anyone came to my house with the intention of infecting my mom. In fact, I don't even know if anyone knew they had it, right? So no, I hold no one responsible for the death of my mom. And I think one needs to understand, my mom also had Alzheimer's. I don't know if you ever interacted with an Alzheimer's patient, but when one has Alzheimer's for, in my mom's case, over 10 years, there are two types of death. There's the death that occurred a few days ago, and there's a death that occurs when she stops being able to recognize you and interact with you. So in many ways, as I told people, my issue is not the sadness of her physical death. My issue is that it was not allowed to happen on whatever terms that she would have preferred it to happen on. Yeah. It had X factor that was allowed to come in. And that frustrates me, because I think with what she has done for this country and for students and so forth, I think she at least deserved to deal with her situation on her terms.
Certainly. And again, it goes to that exercising of rights versus the greater good in society. Before we go, what is your stance on mandatory vaccination for certain jobs? Again, those jobs that deal directly with persons who are at risk and most vulnerable to the disease.
Okay, so this is another topic that has become somewhat of a buzz thing. As a general principle, I don't necessarily see mandatory vaccination as a route to go. I pretty much agree significantly the Prime Minister on that one, in that I think that has to be done as a last resort and if things are going a particular direction. Having said that, however, I find it very hard to get an explanation as to how a profession in the medical profession, how do you rationalize after many of you haven't taken the Hippocratic Oath, which is simply basically means to do no harm.
Right?
How do you rationalize taking that oath and being part of that profession and not vaccinating yourself and treating vulnerable persons? So it is not for me to say whether it should be mandatory or not. I think there's a bigger issue. It is for the medical profession to assess itself and ask itself, can it have any level of integrity if it is not ensuring that the very patients that they seek to make better, they may make ill?
Surely, and that is a question that is yet to be answered, and in some ways an indictment as well. That is all the time we have for this morning, but I want to thank you for joining us. Again, I want to extend condolences to you and your family on the passing of your mom, and there's much to be discussed on the topic.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you so much. That is Dwight Andrews, and we were just discussing vaccine hesitancy, the situation with his mother, and that would have also faced many other families here in Trinidad and Tobago that would have been lost a loved one to COVID-19 in various situations. And I just want to extend my condolences once more. And again, get educated, get the information you need to get, and make the right choice for you. All right, with that, we're going to take a short break here on the Now Morning Show and be back with much more.